Alfred Lanning lit his cigar with care, but the tips of his fingers were shaking a little bit. His gray eyebrows came down low as he talked between puffs. It reads minds all right. There's almost no doubt about that. But why? Lanning said. He looked at mathematician Peter Bogurt. Well? Lanning asked. Bogurt pressed his black hair down flat with both hands. That was the 34th RB model we've made, Lanning. All the others were completely normal, Bogurt said. The third man at the table made an unhappy face. Milton Ash was the youngest officer of U.S. Robot and Mechanical Men, Inc., and he was proud of his job. Listen, Bogurt, there wasn't a single problem in the building process from start to finish. I promise you that, Ash said. Bogart's thick lips spread in a smile that looked down on Ash. If you can speak for the entire building line, I think you should get promoted. By exact count, there are 75,234 steps needed for making a single positronic brain. Each separate step depends for working correctly on any number of things, from 5 to 105. If any one of them goes seriously wrong, the brain is destroyed. I'm reading from our own information folder, Ash, Bogurt said. Milton Ash's face went red, but a fourth voice stopped his reply. If we're going to start by trying to put the blame on each other, I'm leaving, Susan Calvin said. Susan Calvin's hands were folded tightly in her lap, and the little lines around her thin, pale lips got deeper. We've got a mind-reading robot in our hands, and it seems to me rather important that we find out just why it reads minds. We're not going to do that by saying, your fault, my fault, Susan Calvin said. Her cold gray eyes locked onto Ash, and he smiled. Lanning smiled too, and as always at such times, his long white hair and smart little eyes made him look like a wise old man from the Bible. That's right, Dr. Calvin, Lanning said. His voice became suddenly sharp. Here's everything in short form. We've made a positronic brain that's supposed to be ordinary, but it's got the amazing ability of being able to tune in on thought waves. It would mark the most important step forward in robotics in many years, if we knew how it happened. We don't, and we have to find out. Is that clear? Lanning said. May I make a suggestion? Bogurt asked. Go ahead, Lanning said. I'd say that until we do figure out the mess, and as a mathematician I expect it to be a very difficult mess, we keep the existence of RB34 a secret. I mean, even from the other members of the staff. As heads of the departments, we ought not to find it an impossible problem, and the fewer people who know about it, Bogurt said. Bogurt is right, Dr. Calvin said. Ever since the interplanetary code was changed to allow robot models to be tested in the plants before being sent out to space, anti-robot propaganda has increased. If any word leaks out about a robot being able to read minds before we can announce complete control of the ability, pretty good use could be made of it, Dr. Calvin said. Lanning sucked at his cigar and nodded seriously. He turned to Ash. I think you said you were alone when you first stumbled on this thought-reading business, Lanning said. I'll say I was alone. I got the scare of my life. RB34 had just been taken off the building table, and they sent him down to me. Obermann was off somewhere, so I took him down to the testing rooms myself. At least I started to take him down, Ash said. Ash stopped, and a tiny smile pulled at his lips. Say, did any of you ever carry on a thought conversation without knowing it? Ash asked. No one bothered to answer, and he continued. You don't realize it at first, you know. He just spoke to me, as sensibly and logically as you can imagine, and it was only when I was most of the way down to the testing rooms that I realized that I hadn't said anything. Sure, I thought lots, but that isn't the same thing, is it? I locked that thing up and ran for Lanning, having it walking beside me, calmly looking into my thoughts and picking and choosing among them gave me the creeps, Ash said. I imagine it would, Susan Calvin said thoughtfully. Susan Calvin thought. Her eyes fixed themselves upon Ash in a strangely focused way. We are so used to thinking our own thoughts are private, Susan Calvin said. Lanning broke in impatiently. Then only the four of us know. All right. We've got to go about this in an organized way. Ash, I want you to check over the building line from beginning to end. Everything. You're to remove all steps in which there was no possible chance of an error, and list all those where there were, together with what it was and how big it could be, Lanning said. Big order, Ash said. Ash thought it was a big order. Naturally, Of course you're to put the men under you to work on this. Every single one if you have to. And I don't care if we go behind schedule either, but they're not to know why, you understand? Lanning said. Yes, Ash said. The young worker smiled in a twisted way. It's still a huge job, Ash said. Lanning turned around in his chair and faced Calvin. You'll have to do the job from the other direction. You're the robo-psychologist of the plant, so you're to study the robot itself and work backward. Try to find out how he works. See what else is connected with his mind-reading powers, how far they go, how they twist his view of things, and just exactly what harm it has done to his ordinary Herby qualities. You've got that? Lanning said. Lanning didn't wait for Dr. Calvin to answer. I'll put the work together and understand the findings with math, Lanning said. He puffed hard at his cigar and said the rest through the smoke. Bogurt will help me there, of course, Lanning said. Bogurt polished the nails of one fat hand with the other and said smoothly, I dare say. I know a little in the area, Bogurt said. Well, I'll get started, Ash said. Ash pushed his chair back and stood up. His pleasantly young face wrinkled in a smile. I've got the hardest job of any of us, so I'm getting out of here and to work, Ash said. He left with a quick, see you later, Ash said. Susan Calvin answered with a barely visible nod, but her eyes followed him out of sight, and she didn't answer when Lanning made a sound and said, Do you want to go up and see RB34 now, Dr. Calvin? Lanning asked. RB34's light-sensing eyes lifted from the book at the quiet sound of door hinges turning, and he was on his feet when Susan Calvin entered. She stopped to fix the huge "No Entrance" sign on the door and then walked toward the robot. I've brought you the texts on hyperatomic motors, Herby. A few, anyway. Would you care to look at them? Susan Calvin asked. RB34, otherwise known as Herby, lifted the 3 heavy books from her arms and opened to the title page of one. Theory of Hyperatomics, Herby said. He spoke quietly to himself as he turned the pages quickly, and then spoke with a distracted air. Sit down, Dr. Calvin. This will take me a few minutes, Herby said. The psychologist sat down and watched Herby closely as he took a chair at the other side of the table and went through the 3 books in an organized way. At the end of half an hour, he put them down. Of course, I know why you brought these, Herby said. The corner of Dr. Calvin's lip moved. I was afraid you would. It's difficult to work with you, Herby. You're always a step ahead of me, Dr. Calvin said. It's the same with these books, you know, as with the others. They just don't interest me. There's nothing to your textbooks. Your science is just a mass of collected information stuck together by temporary theory. And also incredibly simple that it's barely worth bothering about, Herby said. It's your fiction that interests me. Your studies of the back and forth of human reasons and emotions, Herby said. His powerful hand moved vaguely as he looked for the proper words. Dr. Calvin whispered. I think I understand, Dr. Calvin said. I see into minds, you see, Herby said. The robot continued. And you have no idea how complicated they are. I can't begin to understand everything because my own mind has so little in common with them, but I try and your novels help, Herby said. Yes, but I'm afraid that after going through some of the painful emotional experiences of our present-day sentimental novel, Dr. Calvin said, there was a touch of bitterness in her voice. You find real minds like ours dull and without color, Dr. Calvin said. But I don't, Herby said. The sudden energy in the response made the other woman jump to her feet. She felt herself going red and thought wildly, he must know, Dr. Calvin thought. Herby became quiet suddenly and spoke in a low voice from which the metallic sound left almost entirely. But of course I know about it, Dr. Calvin. You think of it always, so how can I help but know, Herby said. Her face was hard. Have you told anyone? Dr. Calvin asked. Of course not, Herby said. This came with real surprise. No one has asked me, Herby said. Well then, she threw out. I suppose you think I am a fool, Dr. Calvin said. No, it is a normal emotion, Herby said. Perhaps that is why it is so foolish, Dr. Calvin said. The sadness in her voice drowned out everything else. Some of the woman showed through the layer of being a doctor. I am not what you would call attractive, Dr. Calvin said. If you are talking about mere physical attraction, I couldn't judge. But I know in any case that there are other types of attraction, Herby said. Nor young, Dr. Calvin said. Dr. Calvin had barely heard the robot. You are not yet 40, Herby said. A worried insistence had crept into Herby's voice. 38 as you count the years, a dried-up 60 as far as my emotional view of life is concerned. Am I a psychologist for nothing? Dr. Calvin said. She drove on with bitter speed. And he's barely 35 and looks and acts younger. Do you suppose he ever sees me as anything but what I am? Dr. Calvin asked. You are wrong, Herby said. Herby's steel fist hit the plastic-topped table with a loud clang. Listen to me, Herby said. But Susan Calvin turned on him now, and the hunted pain in her eyes became ablaze. Why should I? What do you know about it all anyway, you machine? I'm just a specimen to you. An interesting bug with a strange mind spread out for inspection. It's a wonderful example of frustration, isn't it? Almost as good as your books, Dr. Calvin said. Her voice, coming out in dry sobs, stopped into silence. The robot drew back at the outburst. He shook his head in a pleading way. Won't you listen to me, please? I could help you if you would let me, Herby said. How? Dr. Calvin asked. Her lips curled. By giving me good advice? Dr. Calvin asked. No, not that. It's just that I know what other people think. Milton Ash, for instance, Herby said. There was a long silence, and Susan Calvin's eyes dropped. I don't want to know what he thinks, she said with difficulty. Dr. Calvin thought. Keep quiet, Dr. Calvin said. I think you would want to know what he thinks, Herby said. Herby thought. Her head remained bent, but her breath came more quickly. You are talking nonsense, she whispered. Dr. Calvin said. Why should I? I am trying to help. Milton Ash's thoughts of you, Herby said. He paused, and then the psychologist raised her head. Well? Dr. Calvin asked. The robot said quietly. He loves you, Herby said. For a full minute Dr. Calvin did not speak. She merely stared, then said, You are mistaken, you must be. Why should he? Dr. Calvin asked. But he does. A thing like that cannot be hidden, not from me, Herby said. But I am so, Dr. Calvin said. She stopped speaking suddenly. He looks deeper than the skin and admires intelligence in others. Milton Ash is not the type to marry a head of hair and a pair of eyes, Herby said. Susan Calvin found herself blinking rapidly and waited before speaking. Even then her voice shook. Yet he certainly never in any way showed, Dr. Calvin said. Have you ever given him a chance? Herby asked. How could I? I never thought that, Dr. Calvin said. Exactly, Herby said. The psychologist stopped in thought and then looked up suddenly. A girl visited him here, at the plant half a year ago. She was pretty, I suppose, blonde and thin, and of course could barely add 2 and 2. He spent all day puffing out his chest, trying to explain how a robot was put together, Dr. Calvin said. The hardness had returned. Not that she understood. Who was she? Dr. Calvin asked. Herby answered without pause. I know the person you are talking about. She is his first cousin, and there is no romantic interest there, I promise you, Herby said. Susan Calvin rose to her feet with an energy almost like a young girl's. Now isn't that strange? That's exactly what I used to pretend to myself sometimes, though I never really thought so. Then it all must be true, Dr. Calvin said. Dr. Calvin thought. She ran to Herby and grabbed his cold, heavy hand in both hers. Thank you, Herby, Dr. Calvin said. Her voice was an urgent, rough whisper. Don't tell anyone about this. Let it be our secret, and thank you again, Dr. Calvin said. With that, and a tight squeeze of Herby's unresponsive metal fingers, she left. Herby turned slowly to his forgotten novel, but there was no one to read his thoughts. Milton Ash stretched slowly and greatly, to the sound of cracking joints and a series of grunts, and then stared at Peter Bogurt, Ph.D. Say, he said, I've been at this for a week now with just about no sleep. How long do I have to keep it up? I thought you said the positronic bombing in vac chamber D was the solution, Ash said. Bogurt yawned delicately and looked at his white hands with interest. It is. I'm on the track, Bogurt said. I know what that means when a mathematician says it. How near the end are you? Ash asked. It all depends, Bogurt said. On what? Ash asked. Ash dropped into a chair and stretched his long legs out before him. On Lanning. The old fellow disagrees with me, Bogurt said. He sighed. A bit behind the times, that's the trouble with him. He holds on to matrix mechanics as the all-in-all, and this problem calls for more powerful mathematical tools. He's so stubborn, Bogurt said. Ash spoke sleepily. Why not ask Herby and settle the whole thing? Ash asked. Ask the robot? Bogurt asked. Bogart's eyebrows climbed. Why not? Didn't the old girl tell you? Ash asked. You mean Calvin? Bogurt asked. Yeah, Susie herself. That robot's a mathematical genius. He knows all about everything plus a bit on the side. He does triple integrals in his head and eats up tensor analysis for dessert, Ash said. The mathematician stared doubtfully. Are you serious? Bogurt asked. So help me. The catch is that the dope doesn't like math. He would rather read mushy novels. Honest, you should see the garbage Susie keeps feeding him. Purple Passion and Love in Space, Ash said. Dr. Calvin hasn't said a word of this to us, Bogurt said. Well, she hasn't finished studying him. You know how she is. She likes to have everything just perfect before letting out the big secret, Ash said. She's told you, Bogurt said. We sort of got to talking. I have been seeing a lot of her lately, Ash said. He opened his eyes wide and made an unhappy face. Say, Bogey, have you been noticing anything strange about the lady lately? Ash asked. Bogurt relaxed into an undignified smile. She's using lipstick, if that's what you mean, Bogurt said. Hell, I know that. Rouge, powder, and eyeshadow, too. She's a sight. But it's not that. I can't put my finger on it. It's the way she talks, as if she were happy about something, Ash said. He thought a little and then lifted his shoulders. The other allowed himself a suggestive look, which for a scientist past 50 was not a bad job. Maybe she's in love, Bogurt said. Ash allowed his eyes to close again. You're crazy, Bogey. You go speak to Herby. I want to stay here and go to sleep, Ash said. Right. Not that I particularly like having a robot tell me my job, nor that I think he can do it, Bogurt said. A soft snore was his only answer. Herby listened carefully as Peter Bogurt, hands in pockets, spoke with careful lack of interest. So there you are. I've been told you understand these things, and I am asking you more out of curiosity than anything else. My line of thinking, as I have explained it, involves a few doubtful steps, I admit, which Dr. Lanning refuses to accept, and the picture is still rather incomplete, Bogurt said. The robot didn't answer, and Bogurt said, Well? Bogurt asked. I see no mistake, Herby said. Herby studied the scribbled figures. I don't suppose you can go any further than that? Bogurt asked. I don't dare try. You're a better mathematician than I, and, well, I'd hate to commit myself, Herby said. There was a shade of satisfaction in Bogart's smile. I rather thought that would be the case. It is deep. We'll forget it, Bogurt said. He crushed the sheets, threw them down the waste tube, turned to leave, and then thought better of it. By the way, Bogurt said. The robot waited. Bogurt seemed to have difficulty. There is something, that is, perhaps you can, Bogurt said. He stopped. Herby spoke quietly. Your thoughts are confused, but there is no doubt at all that they concern Dr. Lanning. It is silly to pause, for as soon as you calm yourself, I'll know what it is you want to ask, Herby said. The mathematician's hand went to his smooth hair in the familiar smoothing movement. Lanning is getting close to 70, he said. Bogurt said this as if that explained everything. I know that, Herby said, and he's been director of the plant for almost 30 years, Bogurt said. Herby nodded, said. Bogart's voice became pleasing. You would know whether he's thinking of resigning, health perhaps, or some other, Bogurt said. Quite, Herby said. Herby said, and that was all. Well, do you know? Bogurt asked. Certainly, Herby said. Then, could you tell me? Bogurt asked. Since you ask, yes, Herby said. The robot was quite matter-of-fact about it. He has already resigned, Herby said. What? Bogurt said. The exclamation was an explosive, almost wordless sound. The scientist's large head pushed forward. Say that again, Bogurt said. He has already resigned, Herby said. The quiet repetition came, but it has not yet taken effect. He is waiting, you see, to solve the problem of myself. That finished, he is quite ready to turn the office of director over to his successor, Herby said. Bogurt let out his breath sharply. And this successor, who is he? Bogurt asked. He was quite close to Herby now, eyes fixed in a fascinated way on those unreadable, dull red light-sensing cells that were the robot's eyes. Words came slowly. You are the next director, Herby said, and Bogurt relaxed into a tight smile. This is good to know. I've been hoping and waiting for this. Thanks, Herby, Bogurt said. Peter Bogurt was at his desk until 5 that morning, and he was back at 9. The shelf just over the desk emptied of its row of reference books and tables as he looked at one after the other. The pages of calculations before him increased very slowly, and the crushed sheets at his feet grew into a hill of scribbled paper. At exactly noon, he stared at the final page, rubbed a bloodshot eye, yawned and lifted his shoulders. This is getting worse each minute. Damn, Bogurt said. He turned at the sound of the opening door and nodded at Lanning, who entered, cracking the knuckles of one bent hand with the other. The director took in the disorder of the room and his eyebrows pulled together. New lead? Lanning asked. No. The defiant answer came. Bogurt said, What's wrong with the old one? Bogurt asked. Lanning did not trouble to answer, nor to do more than give a single quick glance at the top sheet upon Bogurt's desk. He spoke through the flare of a match as he lit a cigar. Has Calvin told you about the robot? It's a mathematical genius. Really amazing, Lanning said. The other made a loud snorting sound. So I've heard, but Calvin had better stick to robopsychology. I've checked Herby on math, and he can barely struggle through calculus, Bogurt said. Calvin didn't find it so, Lanning said. She's crazy, Bogurt said. And I don't find it so, Lanning said. The director's eyes narrowed dangerously. Bogurt said. Bogurt's voice hardened. What are you talking about? Bogurt asked. I've been putting Herby through his paces all morning, and he can do tricks you never heard of, Lanning said. Is that so? Bogurt asked. You sound doubtful, Lanning said. Lanning flipped a sheet of paper out of his vest pocket and unfolded it. That's not my handwriting, is it? Lanning asked. Bogurt studied the large, angular writing covering the sheet. Herby did this? Bogurt asked. Right, and if you'll notice, he's been working on your time integration of equation 22. It comes, Lanning said. Lanning tapped a yellow fingernail upon the last step, to the identical conclusion I did, and in a quarter the time. You had no right to ignore the Linger effect in positronic bombing, Lanning said. I didn't ignore it. For heaven's sake, Lanning, get it through your head that it would cancel out, Bogurt said. Oh, sure, you explained that. You used the Mitchell translation equation, didn't you? Well, it doesn't apply, Lanning said. Why not? Bogurt asked. Because you've been using hyper-imaginaries for one thing, Lanning said. What's that to do with? Bogurt asked. Mitchell's equation won't hold when, Lanning said. Are you crazy? If you'll reread Mitchell's original paper in the Transactions of the Far, Bogurt said. I don't have to. I told you in the beginning that I didn't like his thinking, and Herby backs me in that, Lanning said. Well then, Bogurt shouted. Let that clockwork thing solve the entire problem for you. Why bother with unimportant things? Bogurt asked. That's exactly the point. Herby can't solve the problem. And if he can't, we can't. Alone. I'm submitting the entire question to the National Board. It's gotten beyond us, Lanning said. Bogart's chair went over backward as he jumped up with an angry sound, face bright red. You're doing nothing of the sort, Bogurt said. Lanning went red in his turn. Are you telling me what I can't do? Lanning asked. Exactly, Bogurt said. The gritted response was, I've got the problem beaten and you're not to take it out of my hands. Understand? Don't think I don't see through you, you dried-up fossil. You'd cut your own nose off before you'd let me get the credit for solving robotic mind-reading, Bogurt said. You're a damned idiot, Bogurt. And in 1 second, I'll have you suspended for insubordination, Lanning said. Lanning's lower lip shook with passion. Which is one thing you won't do, Lanning. You haven't any secrets with a mind-reading robot around, so don't forget that I know all about your resignation, Bogurt said. The ash on Lanning's cigar shook and fell, and the cigar itself followed. What? Lanning said. Bogurt chuckled nastily. And I'm the new director, be it understood. I'm very aware of that, don't think I'm not. Damn your eyes, Lanning, I'm going to give the orders about here or there will be the sweetest mess that you've ever been in, Bogurt said. Lanning found his voice and let it out with a roar. You're suspended, do you hear? You're relieved of all duties. You're broken, do you understand? Lanning said. The smile on the other's face got broader. Now what's the use of that? You're getting nowhere. I'm holding the winning cards. I know you've resigned. Herby told me, and he got it straight from you, Bogurt said. Lanning forced himself to speak quietly. He looked an old man with tired eyes looking from a face in which the red had disappeared, leaving the pasty yellow of age behind. I want to speak to Herby. He can't have told you anything of the sort. You're playing a deep game, Bogurt, but I'm calling your bluff. Come with me, Lanning said. Bogurt lifted his shoulders. To see Herby? Good. Damn good, Bogurt said. It was also exactly at noon that Milton Ash looked up from his clumsy sketch and said, You get the idea? I'm not too good at getting this down, but that's about how it looks. It's a honey of a house, and I can get it for next to nothing, Ash said. Susan Calvin gazed across at him with melting eyes. It's really beautiful, she sighed. Dr. Calvin thought. I've often thought that I'd like to, Dr. Calvin said. Her voice trailed away. Of course, Ash said. Ash continued briskly, putting away his pencil. I've got to wait for my vacation. It's only 2 weeks off, but this Herby business has everything up in the air, Ash said. His eyes dropped to his fingernails. Besides, there's another point, but it's a secret, Ash said. Then don't tell me, Dr. Calvin said. Oh, I'd just as soon I'm just bursting to tell someone, and you're just about the best confidant I could find here, Ash said. He smiled sheepishly. Susan Calvin's heart jumped, but she did not trust herself to speak. Susan Calvin thought. Frankly, Ash said. Ash scraped his chair closer and lowered his voice into a confidential whisper. The house isn't to be only for myself. I'm getting married, Ash said. And then he jumped out of his seat. What's the matter? Ash asked. Nothing, Dr. Calvin said. The horrible spinning sensation had vanished, but it was hard to get words out. Married, you mean? Dr. Calvin asked. Why sure, about time, isn't it? You remember that girl who was here last summer, that's she. But you are sick. You, Ash said. Headache, Dr. Calvin said. Susan Calvin moved him away, weakly. I've been subject to them lately. I want to congratulate you, of course. I'm very glad, Dr. Calvin said. The inexpertly applied rouge made a pair of nasty red splotches upon her chalk-white face. Things had begun spinning again. Pardon me, please, Dr. Calvin said. The words were a mumble as she stumbled blindly out the door. It had happened with the sudden disaster of a dream, and with all the unreal horror of a dream, Dr. Calvin thought. But how could it be? Herby had said, Dr. Calvin thought, and Herby knew. He could see into minds, Dr. Calvin thought. She found herself leaning breathlessly against the door jamb, staring into Herby's metal face. She must have climbed the 2 flights of stairs, but she had no memory of it. The distance had been covered in an instant, as in a dream. As in a dream, Dr. Calvin thought. And still Herby's unblinking eyes stared into hers, and their dull red seemed to expand into dimly shining nightmarish globes. Dr. Calvin thought. He was speaking, and she felt the cold glass pressing against her lips. She swallowed and shuddered into a certain awareness of her surroundings. Still Herby spoke, and there was agitation in his voice, as if he were hurt and frightened and pleading. Herby thought. The words were beginning to make sense. This is a dream, he was saying. Herby said, and you mustn't believe in it. You'll wake into the real world soon and laugh at yourself. He loves you, I tell you. He does. But not here. Not now. This is an illusion, Herby said. Susan Calvin nodded, her voice a whisper. Yes, Dr. Calvin said. She was clutching Herby's arm, clinging to it, repeating over and over. It isn't true, is it? It isn't, is it? Dr. Calvin asked. Just how she came to her senses she never knew, but it was like passing from a world of misty unreality to one of harsh sunlight. She pushed him away from her, pushed hard against that steely arm, and her eyes were wide. Dr. Calvin thought. "What are you trying to do?" Dr. Calvin asked. Her voice rose to a harsh scream. "What are you trying to do?" Dr. Calvin asked. Herby backed away. "I want to help," Herby said. The psychologist stared. "Help? By telling me this is a dream? By trying to push me into schizophrenia?" Dr. Calvin asked. A hysterical tightness seized her. "This is no dream. I wish it were," Dr. Calvin said. She drew her breath sharply. "Wait. Why, I understand. Merciful heavens, it's so obvious," Dr. Calvin said. There was horror in the robot's voice. "I had to," Herby said. "And I believed you. I never thought," Dr. Calvin said. Loud voices outside the door brought her to a halt. She turned away, fists clenching in spasms, and when Bogurt and Lanning entered, she was at the far window. Neither of the men paid her the slightest attention, Dr. Calvin thought. They approached Herby at the same time, Lanning angry and impatient, Bogurt coolly mocking. The director spoke first. "Here now, Herby. Listen to me," Lanning said. The robot brought his eyes sharply down upon the aged director. "Yes, Dr. Lanning," Herby said. "Have you discussed me with Dr. Bogurt?" Lanning asked. "No, sir," Herby said. The answer came slowly, and the smile on Bogart's face flashed off. "What's that?" Bogurt asked. Bogurt pushed in ahead of his superior and stood firmly on the ground before the robot. "Repeat what you told me yesterday," Bogurt said. "I said that," Herby said. Herby fell silent. Deep within him his metallic diaphragm vibrated in soft discords. "Didn't you say he had resigned?" Bogurt roared. "Answer me," Bogurt said. Bogurt raised his arm frantically, but Lanning pushed him aside. "Are you trying to bully him into lying?" Lanning asked. "You heard him, Lanning. He began to say yes and stopped. Get out of my way. I want the truth out of him, understand?" Bogurt said. "I'll ask him," Lanning said. Lanning turned to the robot. "All right, Herby, take it easy. Have I resigned?" Lanning asked. Herby stared and Lanning repeated anxiously. "Have I resigned?" Lanning asked. There was the faintest trace of a negative shake of the robot's head. A long wait produced nothing further, Herby thought. Herby thought a negative shake. The two men looked at each other, and the hostility in their eyes was all but touchable. The two men thought, "What the devil?" Bogurt blurted out. "Has the robot gone mute? Can't you speak, you monstrosity?" Bogurt asked. "I can speak," Herby said. The ready answer came. "Then answer the question. Didn't you tell me Lanning had resigned?" "Hasn't he resigned?" Bogurt asked. And again there was nothing but dull silence, until from the end of the room, Susan Calvin's laugh rang out suddenly, high-pitched and semi-hysterical. Dr. Calvin thought. The two mathematicians jumped, and Bogart's eyes narrowed. "You hear? What's so funny?" Bogurt asked. "Nothing's funny," Dr. Calvin said. Her voice was not quite natural. "It's just that I'm not the only one that's been caught. There's irony in 3 of the greatest experts in robotics in the world falling into the same elementary trap, isn't there?" Dr. Calvin asked. Her voice faded and she put a pale hand to her forehead. "But it isn't funny," Dr. Calvin said. This time the look that passed between the two men was one of raised eyebrows. The two men thought. "What trap are you talking about?" Lanning asked. Lanning asked stiffly. "Is something wrong with Herby?" Lanning asked. "No," Dr. Calvin said. She approached them slowly. "Nothing is wrong with him, only with us," Dr. Calvin said. She turned suddenly and shrieked at the robot. "Get away from me! Go to the other end of the room and don't let me look at you," Dr. Calvin said. Herby cringed before the fury of her eyes and stumbled away in a clattering trot, Herby thought. Lanning's voice was hostile. "What is all this, Dr. Calvin?" Lanning asked. She faced them and spoke mockingly. "Surely you know the fundamental first law of robotics," Dr. Calvin said. The other two nodded together. "Certainly," Bogurt said. Bogurt spoke irritably. "A robot may not injure a human being or, through inaction, allow him to come to harm, Bogurt said. How nicely put, Dr. Calvin sneered. But what kind of harm? Dr. Calvin asked. Why, any kind, Bogurt said. Exactly, any kind. But what about hurt feelings? What about deflation of one's ego? What about the blasting of one's hopes? Is that injury? Dr. Calvin asked. Lanning frowned. What would a robot know about? Lanning said, and then he caught himself with a gasp. You've caught on, have you? This robot reads minds. Do you suppose it doesn't know everything about mental injury? Do you suppose that if asked a question, it wouldn't give exactly that answer that one wants to hear? Wouldn't any other answer hurt us, and wouldn't Herby know that? Dr. Calvin asked. Good heavens, Bogurt muttered. Bogurt thought. The psychologist cast a mocking glance at him. I take it you asked him whether Lanning had resigned. You wanted to hear that he had resigned, and so that's what Herby told you, Dr. Calvin said. And I suppose that is why, Lanning said. Lanning said without emotion. It would not answer a little while ago. It couldn't answer either way without hurting one of us, Lanning said. There was a short pause in which the men looked thoughtfully across the room at the robot, crouching in the chair by the bookcase, head resting in one hand. The men thought. Susan Calvin stared steadily at the floor. He knew of all this. That devil knows everything, including what went wrong in his assembly, Dr. Calvin said. Her eyes were dark and brooding, Dr. Calvin thought. Lanning looked up. You're wrong there, Dr. Calvin. He doesn't know what went wrong. I asked him, Lanning said. What does that mean? Dr. Calvin cried. Only that you didn't want him to give you the solution. It would puncture your ego to have a machine do what you couldn't. Did you ask him? Dr. Calvin asked. She shot the question at Bogurt. In a way, Bogurt said. Bogurt coughed and reddened. He told me he knew very little about mathematics, Bogurt said. Lanning laughed, not very loudly, and the psychologist smiled mockingly. She said, I'll ask him. A solution by him won't hurt my ego, Dr. Calvin said. She raised her voice into a cold, commanding tone. Come here, Dr. Calvin said. Herby rose and approached with hesitant steps. Herby thought. You know, I suppose, Dr. Calvin said. She continued. Just exactly at what point in the assembly an extraneous factor was introduced, or an essential one left out, Dr. Calvin said. Yes, Herby said. Herby said in tones barely heard. Hold on, Bogurt broke in angrily. That's not necessarily true. You want to hear that? That's all, Bogurt said. Don't be a fool, Calvin replied. He certainly knows as much math as you and Lanning together, since he can read minds. Give him his chance, Dr. Calvin said. The mathematician subsided and Calvin continued. All right then, Herby, give. We're waiting, Dr. Calvin said. And in an aside, get pencils and paper, gentlemen, Dr. Calvin said. But Herby remained silent, and there was triumph in the psychologist's voice. Why don't you answer, Herby? Dr. Calvin asked. The robot blurted out suddenly. I cannot. You know I cannot. Dr. Bogurt and Dr. Lanning don't want me to, Herby said. They want the solution, Dr. Calvin said. But not from me, Herby said. Lanning broke in, speaking slowly and distinctly. Don't be foolish, Herby. We do want you to tell us, Lanning said. Bogurt nodded curtly. Bogurt thought a nod. Herby's voice rose to wild heights. What's the use of saying that? Don't you suppose that I can see past the superficial skin of your mind? Down below you don't want me to. I'm a machine, given the imitation of life only by virtue of the positronic interplay in my brain, which is man's device. You can't lose face to me without being hurt. That is deep in your mind and won't be erased. I can't give the solution, Herby said. Herby thought. We'll leave, Lanning said. Tell Calvin, Lanning said. That would make no difference, Herby cried. Since you would know anyway that it was I that was supplying the answer, Herby said. Calvin resumed. But you understand, Herby, that despite that, Drs. Lanning and Bogurt want that solution, Dr. Calvin said. By their own efforts, Herby insisted, Herby said. But they want it. And the fact that you have it and won't give it hurts them. You see that, don't you? Dr. Calvin asked. Yes, Herby said. And if you tell them, that will hurt them too, Dr. Calvin said. Yes, yes, Herby said. Herby was retreating slowly, and step by step Susan Calvin advanced. The two men watched in frozen bewilderment. The two men thought, "You can't tell them," Dr. Calvin droned slowly, "because that would hurt and you mustn't hurt. But if you don't tell them, you hurt, so you must tell them. And if you do, you will hurt and you mustn't, so you can't tell them. But if you don't, you hurt, so you must. But if you do, you hurt, so you mustn't. But if you don't, you hurt, so you must. But if you do, you," Dr. Calvin said. Herby was up against the wall, and here he dropped to his knees. "Stop!" he shrieked. Herby said, "Close your mind. It is full of pain and frustration and hate. I didn't mean it, I tell you. I tried to help. I told you what you wanted to hear. I had to," Herby said. The psychologist paid no attention. "You must tell them, but if you do, you hurt, so you mustn't. But if you don't, you hurt, so you must. But," Dr. Calvin said. And Herby screamed, Herby thought. It was like the whistling of a piccolo many times magnified, shrill and shriller till it keened with the terror of a lost soul, and filled the room with the piercingness of itself, Herby thought. And when it died into nothingness, Herby collapsed into a huddled heap of motionless metal, Herby thought. Bogart's face was bloodless. "He's dead," Bogurt said. "No," Susan Calvin said. Susan Calvin burst into body-racking gusts of wild laughter. "Not dead, merely insane. I confronted him with the insoluble dilemma and he broke down. You can scrap him now, because he'll never speak again," Dr. Calvin said. Lanning was on his knees beside the thing that had been Herby. His fingers touched the cold, unresponsive metal face, and he shuddered. "You did that on purpose," Lanning said. He rose and faced her, face twisted. Lanning thought, "What if I did?" "You can't help it now," Dr. Calvin said, and in a sudden access of bitterness, "He deserved it," Dr. Calvin said. The director seized the paralyzed, motionless Bogurt by the wrist. "What's the difference?" "Come, Peter," Lanning said. He sighed. "A thinking robot of this type is worthless anyway," Lanning said. His eyes were old and tired, and he repeated, "Come, Peter," Lanning said. It was minutes after the two scientists left that Dr. Susan Calvin regained part of her mental equilibrium. Slowly her eyes turned to the living dead Herby, and the tightness returned to her face. Long she stared while the triumph faded and the helpless frustration returned. And of all her turbulent thoughts, only one infinitely bitter word passed her lips. Dr. Calvin thought. "Liar," Dr. Calvin said.